For 12 years, Katie Holmes has lived under one of the strictest legal silences in Hollywood history. But the clock is ticking down to 2025, the year the gag order finally expires. What has she been hiding, and why is the industry terrified of what she might say? To the casual observer, Katie is just the Joey Potter girl next door, the unbothered New Yorker spotted hailing cabs in cashmere cardigans, focused entirely on raising her daughter. But that unassuming soccer mom image is the perfect camouflage for a woman holding the codes to a nuclear PR disaster. Behind the paparazzi photos lies a calculated silence that has protected the darkest secrets of a billion-dollar empire. This silence wasn't a lifestyle choice. It was the price of admission for freedom. When she executed her divorce in 2012, she didn't just leave a marriage, she orchestrated a tactical extraction that stunned the world, finalizing a high-stakes settlement in just 11 days. Insiders have long whispered that she traded hundreds of millions in potential spousal support for something far more valuable: sole custody of Suri and an iron-clad exit strategy. But that safety came with a golden handcuffs clause, a strict gag order designed to keep the inner workings of her ex-husband's life and his controversial organization buried. Now, the timeline is shifting. With Suri officially an adult and using a new name, the leverage that once enforced Katie's silence is evaporating. 2025 doesn't just mark a new year, it marks the potential collapse of a decades-long containment strategy. If the rumors of a definitive NDA expiration are true, the industry isn't just bracing for a memoir, they're fearing a total rewrite of Hollywood history. Before we start, don't forget to press that like button and subscribe to the channel. Let's begin. June 2012 didn't bring a breakup, it brought a covert operation that would make Ethan Hunt sweat. While the world watched Tom Cruise perform death-defying stunts for Oblivion on a desolate film set in Iceland, Katie Holmes was quietly executing a screenplay of her own design in New York City. She knew she was surveilled. She knew the magnitude of the machinery around her husband, a billion-dollar apparatus of assistants, handlers, and security details that blurred the line between protection and containment. To escape it, she couldn't just pack a bag, she had to go dark. The plan was analog in a digital world. Her father, Martin Holmes, a sharp-witted divorce attorney from Toledo, allegedly supplied her with a disposable burner phone, a plastic lifeline that bypassed the monitored communication channels of her marital home. While Cruise believed his wife was merely running errands, she was secretly coordinating a scorched-earth legal strategy. She quietly leased a secret apartment in Chelsea, a safe house stocked with essentials for her and Suri, completely off the radar of her husband's team. The contrast was staggering. In Iceland, Cruise was the most powerful movie star on the planet, surrounded by a fortress of influence. In Manhattan, Katie was armed with nothing but silence and a burner phone. But silence was the one weapon he couldn't defend against. When the call finally came, it didn't just ring, it detonated. Cruise was reportedly blindsided on set, completely unaware that while he was playing the hero on screen, he had just been outmaneuvered in real life. The fear that drove Katie wasn't the heartbreak of a failed marriage, it was the terrified, visceral panic of being disconnected. She wasn't fighting for alimony, she was fighting to avoid being erased from her daughter's life, trapped in a system where leaving usually meant losing everything. She struck first, she struck hard, and by the time the dust settled, she had already vanished into the crowds of New York City. In the world of high-stakes celebrity litigation, divorces involving hundreds of millions of dollars usually resemble trench warfare, dragging on for years. This one was over in 11 days. When the details of the settlement leaked, the numbers didn't seem to add up. Tom Cruise was worth an estimated $500 million, yet Katie walked away with zero spousal support. No lump sum alimony, no massive payout for herself.
The only financial exchange was $400,000 a year in child support, a figure that, while substantial to the average person, was effectively pennies to a man who commanded that amount for a single day on set. On paper, it looked like she had lost. In reality, she had pulled off the heist of the century. Katie hadn't negotiated for money, she had negotiated for a life. By forfeiting a claim to his fortune, she secured the one asset that actually mattered, sole custody of Surrey. She effectively bought her daughter's freedom with her own financial silence, ensuring Surrey would never be sent to a residential school, code for the strict Scientology boarding facilities that had separated other children from their parents. But this freedom came with a heavy price tag, paid in silence rather than currency. The settlement reportedly included an incredibly restrictive NDA, a gag order so tight it didn't just ban tell-all books or interviews, it allegedly prohibited her from speaking even a single negative word about Scientology. She was legally bound to be a ghost regarding her past life.
Yet the legal team didn't stop at protecting the church's reputation. As the years went on, insiders began whispering about a clause that was far more invasive than simple confidentiality. The paperwork didn't just control what she could say, it controlled who she could be. But the silence about the church was nothing compared to the rules about her personal life. Reports revealed a clause so draconian it sounds like a plot point from a dystopian novel. Katie was allegedly forbidden from publicly dating another man for exactly 5 years. The clock started ticking the moment the ink dried in 2012, and it didn't stop until 2017.
This wasn't just about discretion. It was an erasure of her romantic existence. For half a decade, Katie had to live a double life. When she began a relationship with Jamie Foxx, one of the most famous men in Hollywood, their romance didn't look like a love story. It looked like a covert military operation. They were forced to engage in elaborate games of hide-and-seek with the paparazzi, not out of shyness, but out of legal necessity.
Insiders described scenes where Katie would reportedly wear cheap wigs and heavy disguises just to meet him at hotels, looking more like a spy on the run than a movie star in love. If they went to dinner, they had to arrive minutes apart and leave through separate exits, terrified that a single photograph of them holding hands could destroy everything she had fought for. For years, the public speculated they were together, but Katie couldn't confirm it. She had to stare into news cameras and deny her own happiness, effectively gaslighting the public to protect her private world. Crucially, this wasn't paranoia. It was a calculated survival strategy. The clause reportedly didn't just ban public romance, it specifically forbade her from letting any boyfriend near Surrey. Violating this contract wouldn't just mean a financial penalty, it could have given Cruz the legal leverage to reopen the custody battle. With the Iron-Clad agreement acting as the only wall between her daughter and the church, Katie couldn't risk a single crack. She essentially placed her heart in solitary confinement to ensure her daughter remained free. She waited out the clock, day by day, for 5 years, proving that her maternal resolve was stronger than any Hollywood power play. Fast forward to 2025, and the board has reset. While Surrey turned 18 in 2024, 2025 marks the true expiration of the danger zone. This is the year she moves from a legally emancipated teen to a fully independent adult, effectively aging out of the court system's reach. This timeline is critical because it dismantles the single greatest weapon alleged to have been held over Katie's head, the threat of disconnection. In the world of Scientology, disconnection is a policy as absolute as it sounds. If a member is declared a suppressive person, essentially an enemy of the church, all other members, including their own children, must cut all contact with them immediately. For over a decade, insiders believe Katie walked a razor's edge, terrified that if she spoke out or violated the iron-clad terms of her divorce, Tom's legal team could maneuver to regain custody.
If that had happened while Suri was a minor, the consequences would have been catastrophic. Suri could have been raised within the church, and Katie, labeled a suppressive person, could have been completely erased from her daughter's life. Katie Holmes didn't just stay silent to avoid a lawsuit. She stayed silent to avoid losing her child to a doctrine that views family loyalty as secondary to church loyalty. She had to ensure that she was the primary influence in Suri's life until the clock ran out.
Now, that leverage has evaporated. As a 19-year-old college student in 2025, Suri is legally untouchable. There is no custody battle to reopen, no visitation schedule to enforce, and no judge who can order her to disconnect from her mother. The shield that forced Katie to absorb years of speculation and silence has shattered. For the first time, the quietest woman in Hollywood has nothing left to lose, and that makes her the most dangerous player in the game.
The ammunition she's holding isn't just about a failed marriage, it's about the machinery that engineered it. For decades, whispers have circulated about the auditioning process, a literal casting call where young actresses were allegedly vetted, screened, and molded to fit the role of the perfect celebrity spouse. But Katie didn't just hear the rumors, she survived the role. She holds the potential to confirm whether her courtship was a romance or a recruitment drive, detailing a system where potential partners were reportedly tested on everything from their audit history to their willingness to conform.
Beyond the initial casting, Katie can finally pull back the curtain on the terrifying day-to-day reality of the inner sanctum. We are talking about life inside a paramilitary compound disguised as a Beverly Hills estate. Insiders have long speculated that high-profile members are assigned handlers rather than assistants, shadows from the elite Sea Org tasked with ensuring the script is never broken. Imagine a life where you are constantly surveilled, your private phone calls logged, and your external friendships controlled by a hierarchy that demands absolute obedience. She lived terrified, not just of a husband, but of a billion-dollar infrastructure that allegedly turned its lens on her the moment she stepped out of line. This is why the anxiety isn't confined to the church's headquarters. It ripples through the executive suites of major Hollywood studios. If Katie speaks, she doesn't just indict a controversial organization. She exposes the industry power players who looked the other way, normalizing a system of intense surveillance in exchange for box office returns. But amidst all the secrets she could spill, there is one specific, devastating truth, a nuclear option that explains exactly why she had to flee in the dead of night. That truth is the final key that unlocks a decade of suppressed rage. For 13 years, Katie Holmes played the ultimate long game, transforming from a terrified pawn in a high-stakes thriller into the grand master who cleared the board. The frantic burner phone logistics of 2012 were never the end of the story. They were merely the opening move to secure the absolute freedom she enjoys today. Now, the era of forced smiles and carefully worded publicist statements is dead. The fear that once dictated her every move has been replaced by the cold, hard resolve of a mother who successfully crossed the finish line. Justice here isn't about a court ruling, it's about reclaiming the narrative from an empire that thrives on intimidation. The industry insiders who bet on her permanent compliance forgot one crucial detail. The most patient survivors make the most devastating witnesses. The woman once caricatured as Hollywood's silent Stepford wife is standing on the precipice of becoming its most vocal whistleblower. She has the receipts, the safety, and finally, the attention of the world. So we have to ask, after 13 years of keeping the peace, do you think it's finally time for Katie to burn it all down and write the ultimate tell-all?